There's three different kinds of love, you know. There's the love that is Eros, which is sexual love. We all know about that. Then there is love, which is Phileo, which is friendship. And I reach out and I touch you, and I'm concerned that the best thing in life may come to you as I look at your eyes. And then there is Agape love. And Agape love is where I love you and I don't expect anything in return. I really want you to see you find joy and happiness in your life. Three kinds of love.
Phileo, Eros, and Agape. Phileo, as you said, is the brotherly love, the love you feel towards your friends, that deep love towards friends. Eros is the love you feel towards a lover, that romantic love, that erotic love. And I'll talk a little bit more about what I think some interesting elements of that later if I can remember. And then there's Agape. Now, Agape is that divine love, that seeing someone else as the divine, kind of the term namaste, that I see the divine in you. That to me is what Agape is. That is the deepest. That is the flow of the universe. That is the alignment that I always talk about. Trying to get into alignment is trying to get in alignment with Agape love. Often romantic love is not close to Agape love, because sometimes people have attachments, people have requirements, people have all sorts of things attached to romantic love. Now, some argue that concern for another person is a type of love, or is love. Some people actually define their love. It's like as a mother being worried about their kid, or being concerned about your partner, protecting them, that kind of thing is often seen as love. That kind of worrying is not love at all. That's attachment. That's an attachment to that person and a concern about not having them. It's even more than that. And it's even worse than that. Because if you're worried about another person, what you're really saying is you lack faith in them. You lack faith that they will figure out their circumstances, they will not be able to overcome their obstacles, and they will not be able to tune in with the universe's flow for them and that situation. That has been a huge thing for me lately, is trying to practice that type of love, where if somebody I love is at a crossroads or struggling, in the past, my instinct has been to help them out, to feel responsible, to be tied with their struggle in a way that I want to, save them. But that isn't love. Now, there is a partnership element and there's working with somebody, but doing so from a place of, I have faith in you, I know what's best for you, and I see you as a success in whatever you see yourself doing. The way I see you is your ideal self. In fact, I was thinking that it would actually be a good idea if your partner has a vision board for themselves, you should study it. You should see your partner in your mind the way they want to see themselves. I think this is actually significant the more I've been thinking about it, because I saw a study that said that if your doctor believes that you will get better, that is more significant statistically in the rate of your recovery than your own belief that you'll get better. Think about that. And think about that when you're in a relationship and you're thinking about the other person, worrying about them, and you're projecting into the universal vibration visuals, images, thoughts about them failing or worrying or struggling or doing the things that they don't want to do, you don't want to do. You want to visualize them as their best, as healed, as evolving, as growing. Now, that doesn't mean you're attached to them being that way. It doesn't mean that you're disappointed if they don't reach that. It means you see that potential in them. You see that seed as they are growing. And so at whatever step they are on that path is perfect. And if they struggle and then they stumble along the way, that's perfect too. Remember, you need the struggles to develop the roots. The tree does not develop its root structure without the storms to knock it around. And the same is true with your beloved, with the people in your lives, and with yourself. So, seeing the other person as their best, seeing through the shell of their insecurities and their weaknesses as they see them, that is your role as a lover, is to hold space for their ideal self. Even when they're down, and not, fighting with them as they're down, but just knowing that they will get through it. Having faith that this person, in their fluctuations, will blossom, will rise to the challenge, will get exactly what they need out of that situation. I wanted to also address the idea of sexual love, of Eros. And from the perspective of love is receiving joy from another's joy and feeling that connection, then the idea of making love is not a euphemism at all. It is an accurate, exact way of defining the act of sex. In some people's lives, I would argue that that's the only time that they actually demonstrate and feel true gifting and true love, is when they are in that place of really wanting joy, pleasure for their partner, to the point that they actually receive joy and pleasure from the other's pleasure. Who hasn't had that feeling of when their partner climaxes, of feeling like you too experience that same pleasure because you have surrendered, you feel love. And I believe you can feel that love in a moment, in a night. I believe you can love someone for a night for that reason, where you feel like you cannot define yourself without the person, and their joy brings you joy. For that night, you love that person. And then, of course, in the more agape sense, simply because you are connected, their joy brings you joy. There was a lecture I listened to by Osho that talked about how our relationships and the love we have in relationships changes as we grow in our mastery or in this guru type love. And that he was saying that when you're way down the path of spirituality, the idea of a single romantic relationship becomes ridiculous, because you don't have a distinguishment between the love you feel for an individual and the love you feel for all people. Now, I don't know if that is a argument in favor of, to try to justify wanton orgies and sexual encounters. I don't care. I'm a big fan of orgies and sexual encounters. So, no, I'm just kidding. Well, no, I'm not kidding. But I think that Osho is extremely wise, and I think that he is in alignment, and I think that's a really interesting idea. And I think my experience has been similar, not in that degree, but in the degree that the more I grow as myself, the more I realize that love, even in a romantic relationship, becomes less and less about the other person and much more about me and my ability to love that person as a perfect example of the divine. And then every choice I make is not like, oh, I wish they changed this. It's just like, is this something that I'm able to process at this level of my spirituality? If I'm at Osho's level, then the other person could do almost anything and it wouldn't bother me. I'm not that evolved. So if my partner, say, has a tendency of, punching me in the face, that's something that I can't get over. But I have at least gotten to the point where I recognize all I can do is communicate that I don't like that. And if they don't go, if it's not merely a educational, go, oh, okay, I'm sorry, well then I won't do it. But if it's something that they do, they just like to punch people in the face, then I cannot be attached to the idea of trying to change them and make them stop hitting me in the face. I simply need to ask myself, is hitting me in the face something that I can live with? And I think that's the same with infidelity. A partner who cheats or lies, you can't try to force the other person not to do it. You simply explain your situation, your truth, and if they are in alignment with that truth, then you move on. If they're not, then you just can only ask, can I be with this person if they want to have other lovers? And that's really a personal decision with where you are. Interesting stuff in this world of love.
You only live once. Enjoy the color.